Hello there, friends. It's Nellie again, and today I've got a special treat for you. Today we're going to actually do an FBA. We've gotten our measurements, upper bust, full bust, and our apex and everything in between that we need to be able to do full bust adjustments. We've calculated our base size based upon our upper bust and full bust measurements. Now we're going to grab our pattern, print it out, the size that we need, our base size, grade it for waist, hip, height, any of that stuff you need to do, and then we're going to start the FBA. I'm going to do the FBA on the Ellie and Mac Watch and See. It's a beautiful top. I am going to do top length with an asymmetrical hem, so we're going to see the entire bodice. We're going to have to do the FBA on both sides. We're going to use our waist measurement as our basis. It's an inset sleeve, so you could use the trapezius to apex, but I'm going to show you how to do the waist one because I think that tends to cause a lot of people to pause at where to find the waist on the pattern, and I'll show you how to do it. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything out, get all the supplies out, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to apologize before we start. I cut off the bottom of some of the images. So hopefully I can explain it enough that it'll make sense. Also, when I was doing the FBA, I did a part in the wrong direction, and I've replaced it. It is currently in the proper order, so that's fantastic. But the images themselves might look a little bit different. So just keep that in mind as you're following along with me, to follow along with me. Hopefully there will be enough notes and stuff on the video to help you be able to follow along. But of course, if you have any questions, be sure to ask. And all right, let's get going. I'll show you how this all works. All excited. Okay, we'll see you in a minute. All right, friends, it is time to do an FBA. Things you're going to need. You're going to need your pattern already graded and adjusted for height. You're going to need some scrap paper, some tape, your measurements, including all the measurements we needed for the FBA that we took in a previous video. You're going to need a straight edge ruler. I like colorful pens, some scissors. And the first thing we are going to do is clear all of this stuff off. This pattern is the Watch and See, which is fantastic. It has an asymmetrical hem, so we have an entire bodice that we have to deal with instead of just a bodice cut on the fold. And the first thing we are going to do is here at the torso length and line, which happens to be 8 inches down from the arm side. This is going to be the natural waist. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut across this natural waist. And we'll set the skirt part aside for now. Okay, now we see here that we've got both a front neckline and a back neckline, meaning this is our pattern piece for both front and back, which means when we change this and add the full bust adjustment, you are not going to want to use this as your back piece. So get out some tracing paper or reprint this part of the bodice and trace your back. I have already done so right here. I just laid it across on top. I marked the line that was my torso line and just traced it out. That's it. That's all we'll do. We can use this pattern piece later, and we can tape this to the skirt and it'll help us to make all one piece. I'll show you how to do that. All right. Now we need to cut out our neckline. So here we go. We have our bodice. We're ready to start. The very first thing we're going to do, because we have a full bodice, is fold this in half so we can find our center line. Fold it in half. Everything should line up. Here we go. We have our center line. If you would like to mark your center line, go for it. Okay, nice little light mark. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is find our bust apex on here. Now, I have here my apex measurements that we took in the last video. They're probably pretty tiny right there. That's okay. From apex to apex is 8.5 inches for me. So we need to do 4.25 inches over from our center line. So 4.25 makes this right about there. I'm drawing my line really light because on both sides, because we have to do this on both sides, but I'm drawing it really light because we'll have to draw it darker later. Right now I just kind of want to mark the general location of my bust apex line, my vertical line. All right, now with this pattern, okay, we do have an inset sleeve. So we could very well align from our trapezius to our apex line to find our bust point. This neckline is going to be too low for us to use the hollow, and it's going to be too wide to use the side of the neck. Another place we can also use, because we know that this happens to be the center front waist, is the center front waist. And let's go ahead and just use the center front waist this time. Okay, it is 9.5 inches. So I want to put my ruler down here where it's 9.5 inches, and I want to make this top part where it crosses the line for my bust apex right here. That's my bust apex on that side. We'll do the same thing right here on this side. 9.5 up here where the line is, and mark the bust apex. All right, so there we have our two bust apexes. Apexi. You know what? I don't know what the plural of apex is. I'm just going to make this a little bit darker. All right. There we go. Fantastic. Okay. Now we are going to make some little bit darker lines going from the hem straight up to the apex. You are going to cut that line. And that's why we're making it a little bit darker, so it's a little bit easier to see. Just go through the center of it. All right. Okay, so this is our first line. We can go ahead and label this A if we'd like. Okay, the second line we are going to make is going to be from the bust apex to the arm side. At this point, we need 1/3 of the arm side. You do not need to be exact with that measurement. There's the arm side, there's approximately half, there's approximately 1/3. So we'll just mark approximately 1/3 on each of these. If you want to be exact, you can go ahead and fold your pattern and mark them so you know that they're both in the same spot. I'm not too awful worried because it's just somewhere in the bottom 1/3 of that arm side. Okay, and here we need to mark our seam allowance. So our seam allowance here on the arm side, for Ellie and Mac patterns, it's 1/4 of an inch. So we'll just come here and mark our seam allowance. Our seam allowance is going to be important for this location. Seam allowance, 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and now we're gonna draw, you guessed it, another cut line. So this cut line will go from our mark through our seam allowance, through our mark on the arm side, through our seam allowance mark, and down here to the center of our apex. Right like that. Just nice straight line. Nothing super fancy. Awesome. We've got our first lines. Now our next line, oh, we should probably label that line, huh? Let's label it B. Okay, so we have A and B labeled. Now we have one more line that we have to do that is going to be from our apex to our side seam, approximately 2 inches down. Again, this does not need to be exact. So just use the ruler, come around about 2 inches down, go through the bust apex, and draw a line. Same with the other side.
Good thing I checked. That barn for 30 that I was going to get you, wouldn't been here till May.
All right. Oh, we'll label this one C. C. All right, that was fairly simple. Now we have some math to do. We're going to do the math before we do the cutting. Okay. If you remember this, we have my measurements, 42.5 upper bust, 46 full bust. We found my base size is the XXL. That's the pink one that's here, and my arm side and my neckline. That's all the XXL. It's graded out to a larger size for my waist, so I have this grading here. But we need to know how much of an FBA I need. We know here that I have a 3.5 inch difference. Okay, so 3.5 inch difference. We are going to divide this by 2 because we want to add that to our front, not to our back. Okay, so the 3.5 divided by 2 is going to equal, I have to double check my math, 1.75. I have it all written down so I don't mess up. Okay, it's 1.75. And if you were doing this pattern in a woven and doing an FBA in a woven, you would need to add that much to both sides. 1.75 here and 1.75 here because we need to expand the front of this pattern by 3.5 inches. But we are using knits. Knits with 50% stretch. Knits that have good recovery, good ability to stretch. And I mean, that's what the pattern requires. So that's what we're using. That stretch and the fact that this is knit is very forgiving for this pattern. Forgiving enough that we can adjust this amount. Okay, and you can do this with knit. You cannot do this with woven. With woven, you have to add the full amount. But because we are using knit with 50% stretch, we can actually divide this by 2 again, which is going to equal, I don't know the number, but it's 7/8 of an inch. So I need to do 7/8 of an inch of an FBA. 7/8 here and 7/8 here. Okay, I hope that made sense. We can go over it again. If you've got other questions on it, let me know. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to start cutting. I know, this is the hard part. It'll be okay. We are going to cut up from A, and we're going to cut over here to B. The only thing is we are going to stop our cutting right here at the seam allowance line. And I will show you why. It's very important that we do that. Stop right there at the seam allowance line because we need to have a hinge so that this can move. But that wrinkles the fabric on this side. This wrinkles the paper on this side. So we also need to trim right here. Ooh, okay. So that we have a little bit of a gap right there. Makes a great little hinge. All right. We're going to do just one side for right now. Okay. Now, earlier, I created some handy dandy little strips of paper that are 7/8 of an inch wide because I knew how much I was going to need to do for the FBA. So I'm just going to slide this under here and I'm going to line this side up with this paper and we're going to tape it down. Oh, this is a huge piece of tape. I don't usually use that long pieces of tape. All right. There we go. That's better. Okay. There we go. It's all taped down. Okay, now we are going to move this point, our bust apex, on top. There we go. And we are going to move it so that it is right along this line. Okay, and our hinge moves up and over or down and under. We're going to add some tape here and some tape up here. And because I have broken hinges before, we're going to add a little piece of tape there, and that's actually going to tape the pattern down. All right, now at this point, you now have two choices. And you will see this on my blog where you can cut from this line over and you'll have an opening here on this side, which then you can then rotate the dart out because this creates a dart on this side. You can then rotate the dart out so that there isn't a dart on this side. Or we can cut from this way over and also create a hinge here and skip rotating out the dart. Yeah, rotate it out already. But before we do that, we need this measurement. This measurement is going to be important because we need to know how big this space is. If we know how big this space is, then we are going to be able to more easily drop the front down because we need to drop the front down to make it up and over and around the bust. Okay, it looks like 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to put a note right here for 1.5. Oh, and it's apparently on tape. All right, just so that I know that's 1.5. Okay, I'm going to show you the already rotated out dart, which means I need to mark this side over here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we are going to cut on line C. Don't cut through the seam allowance, again making a little hinge. Okay, now what we're going to do here, we want this bust location to stay. We want this arm side to stay. You can kind of see how it's change shaped a little. This is how it's going to help cover more of the bust underneath your arm side. Okay, so we're going to tape this here, and then we are going to pivot this direction. All right, piece C right here until I am parallel. I want to be parallel with this line. And then we'll tape it down. All right, now here we're going to notice that we have a difference here. Okay, with this difference, what we need to do is we need to, because this here really didn't change. Okay, this has pretty much stayed the same. We have made 7/8 of an inch of extra room here at the bust. That's our bust adjustment. But this shortened it. We need to add this 1.5 inch of length. Okay, the 1.5 inch of length needs to be right here at the center. We are going to drop this center line down by 1.5 inches, which is going to be right there. Okay. You can go ahead and do the other side. I'm going to do the other side a little bit later, but you're going to do it exactly the same as this side, just mirror imaged. Then when we are done, I want you to take your back piece that you have done and line up. So we're going to line up our shoulder seams and line up our torso here, right here, because it's the same before we've changed it. Okay, because what we're concerned about here is this side seam. Okay, well, we added 7/8 of an inch here, and when we added this 7/8 of an inch, we added this 7/8 of an inch, and we don't want to add this 7/8 of an inch. This is added to our waist. This is not where we want this. So I like to use my handy dandy little curved ruler here. And I like to curve this section. And sometimes I have to go over it a couple of times to get the curve shape that I like. But we're going to curve it like this. And you can just hand draw this. If you don't have any fancy rulers, you don't need them. Just hand draw to bring this side back down. Okay, because we need to remove that extra width, or we're going to have, it's going to be way too big around our waist. So it's going to look similar to this. All right, isn't that fantastic? Okay, so what I'm gonna have you do is on this bottom piece, okay, we are going to drop this piece. Okay, I'm lining it up right here by 1.5 inches. There. We're going to tape it back down. I have a little scrap piece of paper here. Okay, so we've just added 1.5 inches. Then we'll use this ruler, the curved one, to curve this out. And we'll smooth out this line. Okay, trim it up. Now, if you want, and there is absolutely zero reason why you can't do this, fold it in half. Add a piece of paper. Oh, excuse me. This might save you a little bit of headache from having to do it twice, but you've already done it once. The pattern is the same on both sides. Why do it twice if we don't have to, right? Okay. We'll tape it. We'll trace. Oh, I want to trace here. Yeah, don't do that. Trace the right lines. Let's tape our back bodice onto the skirt. Okay, I drew the line here. I don't know how well you can see it, but I drew a line here indicating this part of the waist. So I'm just going to line it back up on the waist, making sure it's straight. We will have a much better looking bodice. Now I'm just going to tape this on right here at the edge. And remember this part here, we have added the extra. It's up here taller at the arm side. See, we added here, so it's taller at the arm side. So you are going to need to ease this in. Oh, yeah, get it taped down. Okay, so you're going to have extra fabric right up here. So this is my suggestion. Pin your arm side like that. Pin the bottom of your skirt. Go ahead and pin all the way up your skirt till your waist. At the waist point, you'll now have this, and you're going to have some extra fabric. Be careful not to stretch and pin right here. And then you're going to gently ease, and it may cause a little bit of a ruching effect. Gently ease the last of this fabric in right here. We're going to cut off this extra tape. Okay, it will work, and then it'll help with the need for an FBA. Okay, this is going to be great. This is going to be fantastic. Everything's going to turn out wonderful and look beautiful. And if you have any questions, let me know. Ask in the comments. I'm sure there are lots of questions, and I will help in any way that I can. All right. Thank you, and good luck. All right. I wanted to show everybody what it looks like when you have your fabric all cut out. Here's the sleeve. I have it pinned. So I pinned the sleeve to the arm side point, and then I started down here at the bottom, and I pinned this nice and even, 1 to 1. But here I have that bump. Okay, the boob bump. So all I'm going to do is evenly ease in or stretch this in to this area here. Now it is going to kind of look like it gathers, but don't gather it. Don't actually create the gathers. But this here, you'll ease it in. Try and do it evenly. I try to usually pin right here in the middle and pin again to try and make that go in as evenly as possible. So when it stretches down my side seam, you don't really notice the gathers a whole lot. And this is the back. There's the front. All right, and I'm going to go and sew this, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, well, here I have sewn up the side seams. There's the sleeve, there's the bust area, the bottom of the skirt, and you'll see there's this little bump here. This is because we've added the extra width and the extra length right here in this area, right there. So we've eased it in. Good. So there's no puckering. There's just extra fabric. That's what we want, is that extra fabric. So this is the front. This is the back. You see the back is still straight, but the front wants to kind of curl to the back. This is what we want. Okay, I'm going to finish up neckband and hemming, and I will try this on, show you how it looks. All right, so here we are. This is the finished product. Sorry you can't see my hem, but this is the longer side. This is the shorter side. I'll make sure I add lots of pictures afterwards. So here we go. Here it is, you can see. Now, a few things I might do differently. Use a fabric that has a little bit more recovery. This sweater knit stretches out pretty good, so the recovery, it doesn't bounce back quite as well. So as you can see, there's just a little bit of extra fabric right here. It looks fine. It's no worse than this, which is because I'm short. So I have too much length from shoulder to underarm. And the sleeves I adjusted just a little bit too much. I like my sleeves just a little bit longer than this. So I'll just make some notations on my pattern pieces for this, that I make sure my sleeve is just a little bit longer. Apparently I overestimated just how short I am. Yeah, I do that sometimes. Or, you know, I can add a cuff to that. That would be great. The neckline fits good. The shoulders hit right where they're supposed to. You don't see any pulling across here. This is from the extra fabric that comes from the sweater knit having as much recovery, not having as much recovery. After I wash it, these will probably disappear as the fabric goes back to its original shape. These lines here are pointing towards the arm side, indicating that there's something not quite right with the arm side. So I'll make a note of that also on my pattern piece, to look at the arm side again in my next version of this. But for the most part, this really turned out quite well. It is very comfortable. I really like the length, so I think this is a win. All right. So thank you very much for joining me. With doing the FBA, I'm so excited we could finally do this, and I hope to do more adjustment videos for you in the near future. If you have any questions, or if there's anything you're interested in learning about, be sure to go ahead and subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you know when we've got a new video here at Ellie and Mac. And we're super excited to have you join us on your sewing journey, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.